At 6:28 in the morning, Russia believed it was about to execute a flawless operation. Helicopter crews were warming engines, special forces divers were loading classified equipment, and command officers were confident the Black Sea belonged to them. What they didn't know was that the operation had already failed 4 minutes earlier. Not because of missiles, not because of jets, but because 12 garage-built drones were already racing toward Crimea, moving faster than Russian commanders could even imagine. This wasn't luck, this wasn't chaos, this was design, and what happened next would expose one of the most dangerous weaknesses in modern warfare. While Russian forces prepared for a daring raid into occupied Kherson, 2 helicopters sat calmly on the tarmac at Vardisk Air Base, crews moving through routine pre-flight checks. At the same time, inside Sevastopol harbor, a tugboat supporting Russia's elite naval special forces was being loaded with underwater combat gear worth millions of dollars. The morning felt quiet, controlled, predictable. But predictability is exactly what Ukraine was counting on. Unknown to the Russian crews, 12 Ukrainian drones had already launched from unmanned surface vessels in the open sea. These USVs were low, fast, and nearly invisible against the water, racing toward Crimea at 35 knots. Mounted on waterproof rails, each vessel carried aerial drones that could deploy in seconds. The drones weren't advanced military products built in billion-dollar factories. They were improvised, cheap, and brutally effective, and they carried one advantage that Russian defenses were never designed to stop. Before reaching their launch point, everything nearly collapsed. A Russian Raptor patrol boat, conducting a routine sweep before dawn, suddenly opened fire into the darkness. Its heavy machine gun lit up the water with glowing tracer rounds as the gunner spotted 3 heat signatures charging toward Crimea. The Raptor surged forward, engines roaring as it pushed past 45 knots, rapidly closing the distance. The Ukrainian USVs had nowhere to hide. Open water stretched in every direction, and their maximum speed was already exhausted. Bullets slammed into the water just meters behind them. Each burst walked closer, correcting aim with terrifying precision. Then, suddenly, the lead USV veered sharply toward shallow volcanic reefs near Cape Chirinus. The other 2 split in opposite directions, forcing the patrol boat to choose. As the Raptor followed, its depth alarm screamed warnings. The captain knew these waters well. 1 more meter and the hull would be torn open on submerged rock. He slammed the engines into reverse, choosing survival over pursuit. At exactly 1,800 meters from the patrol boat, the USVs initiated emergency deployment. Launch rails snapped upright. In a single synchronized motion, 12 drones shot into the sky, climbing at 50 meters per second. The Russian gunner tried to elevate his weapon, but physics betrayed him. His mount maxed out at 60 degrees. The drones were already climbing past 75. A $1 million patrol craft had just been defeated by geometry. But escaping gunfire was the easy part. As the drones stabilized at altitude, Russian electronic warfare systems activated from the Terran Kut Peninsula. A massive jammer flooded the electromagnetic spectrum, drowning out GPS, communications, and navigation signals. To make matters worse, false GPS data was injected, showing the drones tens of kilometers from their real position. Any unprepared system would have flown straight into the empty sea. Ukraine anticipated this. The drones switched instantly to inertial navigation, relying on internal gyroscopes instead of external signals. No GPS, no radio guidance, just pure math and memory. Like walking through your house in the dark, they knew every turn. At 2,000 meters, the drones split into teams. 6 headed inland toward Vardisk Air Base. 4 descended toward Sevastopol harbor. 2 climbed higher, acting as silent communication relays. Timing was everything. Both targets had to be hit simultaneously. If even one alarm went out early, the entire operation could fail. As the sun began rising over Crimea, the harbor drones slipped downward through the fog. Sevastopol was one of the most heavily defended naval bases in the region, packed with radar arrays, missile systems, and hundreds of sailors on alert. But the drones had something none of those systems expected: patience. They moved slowly, deliberately, almost casually. The Pantsir defense system detected them immediately. It could track objects the size of a tennis ball at extreme range. Yet its software rejected the targets. The drones were moving too slowly. The system was designed for supersonic missiles, not something creeping along at bicycle speed. The algorithm assumed they were birds or debris. That assumption would cost millions. Dropping to just 10 meters above the water, the drones weaved between anchored ships. Radar waves reflected off the surface, canceling each other out. Massive steel hulls created perfect blind spots. A sailor finally spotted them with the naked eye and shouted, triggering manual tracking. But fog reduced visibility to under a kilometer, and the drones changed direction every 2 seconds. The system never got enough data to fire. Their target sat quietly at Pier 7, a specialized tugboat supporting Russia's Naval Special Forces divers. Inside were diving chambers, propulsion vehicles, explosives, and classified equipment meant for an upcoming covert operation. Destroying this vessel would cripple Russia's underwater strike capability in the Black Sea. And it had to happen now. 2 sailors opened fire with a heavy machine gun, but the lead drone approached almost vertically, diving from above at a steep angle. Human reaction time couldn't keep up. By the time the gunner fired, the drone was already somewhere else. 3 more drones attacked from different directions, overwhelming the weapon's slow rotation. The first impact shattered the bridge. A shaped charge punched through steel and glass, filling the control room with fire and smoke. The second strike hit the waterline. Seawater poured in at catastrophic pressure. Equipment slid, then vanished into the harbor. In less than 30 seconds, years of training and millions in gear sank beneath the surface. And that was only the beginning. 6 more drones were already racing inland toward the air base. 6 drones were now deep inland, flying fast and low toward Vardisk Air Base. They had already traveled 35 kilometers, burning through more than half their batteries. Every second mattered. Instead of flying directly, they hugged the main highway, staying just 3 meters above the asphalt. Morning traffic had begun. Trucks, buses, and cars created constant radar noise, and every time a large vehicle passed underneath, the drones vanished into the clutter. To air defense systems, they didn't look like threats. They looked like interference. The drones threaded through a nightmare of obstacles. Power lines, road signs, overpasses. One wrong move at 140 kilometers per hour would mean instant destruction. But their guidance systems weren't improvising. Every meter of this route had been studied in advance. This wasn't bravery, it was preparation. At 6:21 a.m., the drones reached the outer perimeter of the air base. On paper, this should have been the end. The base was protected by a TORM-2 air defense system, a mobile missile launcher worth more than $25 million. It was designed to detect and destroy aircraft, helicopters, cruise missiles, even guided bombs. The drones never should have made it within 10 kilometers. But the TOR had a flaw almost nobody talked about. Its radar didn't see everything at once. It scanned in elevation bands. First high altitude, then medium, then low. Each full scan cycle took 4 seconds. During those 4 seconds, whatever wasn't in the active band was effectively invisible. A blind spot built into the system itself. The Ukrainian operators knew the timing down to the second. They watched synchronized clocks, waiting. When the TOR radar tilted upward to scan for high-altitude threats, the drones accelerated to their maximum speed. In just 4 seconds, they crossed 400 meters of exposed ground. By the time the radar swept back down, the drones were already inside the base perimeter, swallowed by buildings, hangars, and parked vehicles. The radar operator saw a brief flash on his screen. Then nothing. Targets appeared and vanished like ghosts. He switched to manual scanning, desperately trying to reacquire them, but now the base itself was working against him. Every structure blocked line of sight. Every fuel tank, every shelter, every aircraft created shadows the radar couldn't penetrate. The drones followed high-voltage power lines directly toward the flight line. The electromagnetic field surrounding the cables drowned out their motor signatures. On radar displays, they blended perfectly into the background noise operators had learned to ignore over years of routine duty. Another assumption, another mistake. The rising sun hung low in the eastern sky, flooding the airfield with blinding light. Cameras, optical sensors, even human eyes struggled to see anything approaching from that direction. Fighter pilots had used this trick for decades. Now cheap drones were doing the same thing. A perimeter guard finally spotted them and shouted into his radio. Soldiers sprinted from a nearby building carrying IGLAS portable missile launchers. These were serious weapons, capable of locking onto fast-moving aircraft and destroying them with ease. Under normal conditions, the drones wouldn't stand a chance. But nothing about this attack was normal. The IGLA tracked heat, and electric drones barely produced any. Their motors were no warmer than a laptop computer. The missile seeker tried to lock, but there was nothing strong enough to grab. Worse, the drones were flying directly out of the sun. Solar radiation overwhelmed the infrared sensors, washing everything in white noise. The soldiers tried again. Still nothing. One launcher fired in manual mode, essentially guessing. The missile screamed past at twice the speed of sound, its proximity fuse armed and ready. But the drones were too small. Too narrow. The missile passed between them without detonating. Then reality hit. The drones were already inside the minimum arming distance. The warhead couldn't even explode safely anymore. The soldiers tried to reload, but the drones were already past them. As the 6 drones fanned out across the airfield, alarms finally reached full volume. Helicopter crews ran for cover. Machine gun positions snapped to life around the maintenance apron. This was the last defensive layer. Everyone knew it. The drones, onboard cameras began pattern matching, comparing live images to stored silhouettes. It took seconds. The distinctive shapes stood out immediately. In Michigan 24 attack helicopter. In Michigan 8 transport helicopter. Parked, fueled, and exposed. Battery warnings flashed. Less than 10% remaining. 90 seconds of flight time, maybe less. 4 PKM machine guns opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of rounds ripped through the air every minute. Tracer lines chased the drones across the sky. But hitting a drone with a machine gun is brutally hard. These weren't predictable targets. They didn't fly straight. They surged forward, slowed abruptly, climbed, dove, rolled, then repeated without pattern. Every gunner was firing at where the drone had been, not where it was going. 2 drones suddenly climbed straight up, flying perfectly steady. The easiest targets imaginable. Instinct took over. Every gun swung upward. Training screamed to engage, and that's exactly what the operators wanted. While the guns focused upward, 4 drones scattered low and fast, slipping through the chaos untouched. The machine guns managed to hit 2 of the climbing drones. One spiraled down trailing smoke. Another lost propellers and smashed into the ground. 4 remained. That was enough. At 6:28 a.m., the first drone slammed into the Mi-24's cockpit. The shaped charge detonated instantly, punching through armored glass and metal. Hydraulic lines ruptured. Fire raced through the airframe. Ammunition cooked off in random bursts, turning the helicopter into a burning hazard zone. Seconds later, another drone struck the Mi-8's auxiliary fuel tank. Jet fuel poured across the hot concrete, igniting into a rolling wall of flame. The fire spread beneath the already burning attack helicopter. Fuel tanks overheated. Explosions followed. In minutes, both aircraft were lost. 2 helicopters worth more than $30 million were destroyed by drones that cost a fraction of that. Combined with the loss of the Special Forces support vessel, Russia's entire planned operation for that morning was erased before it ever began. And the most dangerous part wasn't the damage. It was what this attack proved. What happened that morning wasn't just another successful strike. It shattered assumptions that had quietly guided military planning for decades. Russia had layered defenses, overlapping sensors, missiles, radar, guns, and electronic warfare systems, all designed to stop fast, expensive threats. Jets, cruise missiles, attack helicopters. What they faced instead was something cheaper, slower, and far more patient. And none of their systems were optimized for that reality. Inside Sevastopol harbor, damage control teams rushed toward Pier 7, but there was nothing left to save. The tugboat had already settled deeper into the water, listing heavily as seawater filled compartments meant to hold precision diving equipment. Cranes stood idle. Fire crews sprayed foam onto burning debris. Sailors stared in disbelief at the harbor surface, where bubbles marked the graves of millions of dollars in classified gear. This wasn't just a loss of hardware. It was a loss of capability. The PDSS divers weren't just soldiers. They were specialists trained for years to operate underwater in hostile conditions. Their propulsion vehicles, decompression chambers, and demolition tools were not items you replace with a phone call. That entire unit had been neutralized in under a minute. At the air base, the scene was just as grim. Burning helicopters forced evacuation of nearby hangars. Fuel fires spread dangerously close to ammunition storage areas. Emergency crews fought flames while commanders scrambled to understand how 6 drones had crossed multiple defensive rings without being stopped. Reports conflicted. Radar logs showed intermittent contacts. Missile teams reported failed locks. Machine gun crews described targets that seemed to move unpredictably, almost intelligently. And that was the uncomfortable truth beginning to surface. These drones weren't acting randomly. They weren't lucky. Every move had been calculated against known system limitations, human, reaction times, and predictable behavior under stress. This wasn't brute force, it was psychology. Modern air defenses rely heavily on assumptions. That threats move fast, that they fly at certain altitudes, that they produce heat, that they trigger specific signatures. The Ukrainian drones exploited every one of those assumptions. They flew slow when systems expected speed. They flew low when sensors looked high. They stayed cold when missiles searched for heat. They attacked from the sun when optics were weakest. And when humans finally took over, fear and overload did the rest. For Russian commanders, the most disturbing realization came later. The attack didn't require cutting-edge technology. It required understanding how expensive systems fail under unconventional pressure. That meant the same vulnerability existed everywhere. Every base, every port, every layered defense built around outdated threat models. Across command centers, analysts replayed footage, logs, and sensor data. They saw the same pattern repeating again and again. Radar blind spots, software filters rejecting impossible targets, manual systems overwhelmed by speed changes and direction shifts, missiles unable to lock, guns unable to lead. Each individual failure seemed small. Together, they created a perfect corridor of destruction. And the cost imbalance was impossible to ignore. A handful of drones costing thousands had destroyed assets worth tens of millions. But more importantly, they had forced Russia to cancel whatever operation had been planned for that morning. Intelligence later suggested it may have involved sabotage, underwater reconnaissance, or strikes against Ukrainian infrastructure. That mission never happened. It died on the runway and at the pier. For Ukraine, this wasn't just a tactical win. It was proof of concept. It showed that with creativity, planning, and precision, a smaller force could punch far above its weight. That asymmetric warfare wasn't a theory. It was reality unfolding in real time. And for militaries around the world, watching closely, the implications were chilling. If this could happen to one of the most heavily defended naval bases in the Black Sea, it could happen anywhere. Airports, power plants, ports, the defenses protecting them were designed for yesterday's wars, not tomorrow's threats. The battlefield had shifted, and many didn't even realize it yet. The most dangerous weapon on display that morning wasn't a drone, a missile, or a jammer. It was adaptability, the ability to see a system not as an impenetrable wall, but as a collection of habits, assumptions, and blind spots waiting to be exploited. As smoke drifted over Sevastopol and Vardisk, one message was impossible to ignore. Superiority no longer belonged to whoever spent the most money. It belonged to whoever understood the rules of the game best, and who was willing to break them. And this operation was far from an isolated incident. It was a preview, because once a weakness is exposed, it doesn't disappear. It spreads, it gets copied, refined, and scaled. What happened that morning would be studied by engineers, planners, and commanders across the globe. Some would learn from it, others would underestimate it, and that difference would decide future battles. What makes this operation truly dangerous isn't just what was destroyed, but what can no longer be protected with certainty. Once the smoke cleared and the fires were contained, Russia still had bases, ships, and defenses on paper. But confidence was gone. Every sensor that failed that morning could fail again. Every assumption that was broken could be exploited by someone else tomorrow. The truth is uncomfortable. Modern militaries built their defenses around efficiency, automation, and cost-effectiveness against known threats. That works perfectly until the threat refuses to behave as expected. The drones didn't challenge Russian defenses head-on. They slid between them. They didn't overpower the systems. They confused them. They didn't try to be invisible. They tried to be unbelievable. That distinction matters. Expensive systems are designed to ignore noise. Birds, debris, glitches, slow, small objects. Those filters keep operators sane during long shifts, but they also create blind faith in software judgment. The Ukrainian drones weaponized that trust. When the system said, "Not a threat," humans relaxed for just a second too long. And in modern combat, a second is an eternity. Even when humans took control, psychology finished the job. Fear narrows focus, overload creates tunnel vision. Under pressure, trained soldiers revert to instinct. Shoot the easy target, track the obvious threat, protect yourself first. The drones exploited the two, forcing defenders into predictable reactions while the real danger slipped through unnoticed. After the attack, defenses were tightened, procedures rewritten, alert levels raised, but none of that changed the core problem. You can't patch imagination. You can't upgrade creativity out of existence. And you can't build a system that anticipates every unconventional idea. That's the lesson many still struggle to accept. This wasn't a victory of technology over technology. It was a victory of mindset over rigidity, of adaptation over tradition, of thinking sideways instead of forward. The drones didn't win because they were smarter. They won because their operators understood how their enemy thought. And that understanding is now out in the open. Every military planner watching this knows one thing for certain. If it happened once, it can happen again. Not necessarily with drones, not necessarily at sea or at an air base, but with the same principle. Cheap tools, smart planning, perfect timing, and an enemy convinced their defenses are stronger than they really are. For civilians, the implications reach even further. Airports, ports, refineries, power grids, and communication hubs rely on the same layered defenses, the same assumptions, the same human responses. The battlefield is no longer somewhere far away. It's wherever systems exist that believe they are safe. That's why stories like this matter. Not as propaganda, not as hype, but as warnings, as reminders that modern conflict doesn't always announce itself with explosions and sirens. Sometimes it arrives quietly, slowly, moving at bicycle speed, ignored until it's too late. Here at Global Focus, we don't just tell you what happened. We break down why it worked, how it happened, and what it means for the future. Because understanding these moments isn't just about history, it's about seeing where the world is headed next. If you want more deep analysis, real-world breakdowns, and stories that expose the hidden mechanics behind global conflicts, make sure you subscribe to Global Focus, like this video, and share it with someone who still believes modern warfare is only about who has the biggest weapons. Because the rules have changed, and the next surprise is already being built.